Okay, we're going to switch to football. We're going to talk about this is a shorter show, objectively. We're going to talk about IU football, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame football. We're going to talk about their opponents in 2025, their schedule, some ceilings, some floors. The vibe heading in for IU football to the season is reload for success and potentially run it back to the playoff. The schedule. I'm going to run through the schedule, and then we're going to break it down. IU opens the season at home against Old Dominion. They then play Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Illinois in their first conference game, at Iowa, at Oregon, Michigan State, UCLA, at Maryland, at Penn State, Wisconsin, and at Purdue. So home games, right? If you're a season ticket holder or if you are looking to go to games, the first three are not that much, right? Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. And then the last four are a bit better. Illinois, big game, maybe one of the biggest games on the schedule. Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, another nice one there. We get to see Zionsville's Eugene Hilton potentially in that game. So there's a few categories. There's really three categories to me that I see with this group of games. Reasonably expected wins is the first category. There are 6 games that I think Indiana should be winning with no issue. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State are the obvious ones. I think Michigan State at home, routine victory. UCLA at home, routine victory. Purdue, maybe a more difficult one just because it's an Old Oak and Bucket game, just because it's on the road. Probably a routine victory against Purdue as well. We can expect those 6 wins, in my opinion. That's why the floor for the Indiana Hoosiers, to me, is 6-6. And then we've got some sneaky trap spots, right? Some games that people aren't maybe circling, because what you're circling right away is at Oregon and at Penn State. But some sneaky trap spots where the Indiana Hoosiers could potentially take a loss. Illinois is the best example to me. That home game in week 4 right away. They've had 3 cupcakes to kind of get ready for it. And then you have Illinois right away. They finished the season ranked number 16. They were 10-3 last season. That is a team that people don't really understand fully the scope of how good they are. Illinois at Iowa, just because it's on the road, is a potentially tough one. At Maryland, another potentially tough one for the same reason. And Wisconsin at home, to me, is another trap spot. So Indiana, their schedule is, in my opinion, more difficult just because you have 2 premier games in Oregon and Penn State, which we'll get to in a second, rather than just one in Ohio State, because Michigan didn't end up being what we think they were. But there's a lot of games like the Michigan game, right? Last year, I would say the trap spots were Michigan and Nebraska, and they had both of those games at home. They were both not very difficult for Indiana to deal with, right? The Michigan game, I think, was a very tough win and a very important win that people don't fully appreciate the significance of, in my opinion. And Nebraska win, similar. Michigan and Nebraska, both of those games, those were the sneaky trap spots. There's 2 of those last season. I think there's 4. I think there's double the amount of trap games. I think there's double the amount of impossible task games. And that's the next category, impossible tasks. At Oregon, at Penn State is going to be a massive, massive step forward if they can win any one of those games. And that's the big thing there, right? It's one thing for IU to just reload and maintain. And if they maintain, they'll probably finish 10-2 or 9-3. Or the question is, are they going to elevate, which would be even more insane to elevate to a level previously unforeseen in modern history for IU football. And that would occur by going to Oregon or to Penn State and winning. That's something they couldn't have done last year, right? Didn't beat Ohio State on the road. Can they beat one of these top-tier playoff teams, true title contenders, Big Ten championship contenders? Can they win one of those games on the road? That is an impossible task. I don't think they will on either one of those games, but if they did, that proves elevation. That proves that they're not only maintaining themselves as a top 15 team in the country maybe, but rather elevating from that and being potentially a team that could legitimately win the Big Ten or legitimately win a national championship. My floor is 6-6. That's if they somehow lose every single one of those trap games, and then, of course, the 2 impossible task games. Ceiling's 10-2. I just don't think they'll get past Oregon or Penn State on the road, barring shenanigans that are very much unforeseen in this moment. But with the roster I'm looking at with IU right now, I think Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Michigan State, UCLA, Purdue, some breezy wins. Very strong chance of winning against Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Wisconsin. And then Oregon and Penn State, I just think is going to be too tall a task for the Hoosiers. This is a team looking to really retain its place in the college football playoff, which by all accounts is a tall task in its own right. It's going to be difficult. I think the SEC will be better. IU really wasn't supposed to make the playoff after losing to Ohio State, but the SEC blew itself up. So IU, of course, just waltzed in there as that next team. They've got 2 marquee road games. That's going to be very difficult to deal with, the Oregon game and the Penn State game. Can they get in with only 10 wins? I think no, because I don't think they'll have the quality wins to justify landing there. It, of course, depends on the landscape of the sport in December. SEC might blow itself up again. The ACC might kill itself. Like, IU might have opportunities to sneak in with 10 wins and 2 losses. Nonetheless, it's a team looking to take care of business in those 6 games. It should be easy. Avoid traps against Illinois, Maryland, etc. And if possible, knock off a top shelf opponent on the road. Or they're just going to finish 10-2 and hope for the best, probably miss the playoff, but have another strong year. That's realistically what I see happening with Indiana this year. I don't think they'll be in the playoff. I think they'll be 10-2. It'll be another fantastic season. Signetti will be celebrated. The team will reload for next season, looking to run it back. There's a lot of time to build hype ahead of 2025, and to the playoff, they're going to have to hope to go, and I think that they certainly have a chance of getting there if they can beat Oregon or Penn State. I just don't really think that that's going to happen at the end of the day.